You're gonna drop them, be careful. It's like we open up a secret universe or room. Aluminum crossover pipe for the front. Hello my rover friends and welcome to the Lucky8 channel. Today we are going to take a deep dive into the 3-liter motor on this particular car, but it's almost identical if you're doing the 5-liter supercharged. They're notorious as they get older to have some of the coolant hoses start to fail. So we've got an amazing kit. We've got aluminum pieces, upgraded thermostat, water pumps, everything you need to dive in and get the job done. And speaking of getting the job done, I'm gonna show you how to do it. Cue the intro. All right, my friends, we got a bit of a mystery going on in this one, slightly different. I don't know where the coolant is coming from. Got some ideas, but normally, like I said in the opening, it's that rear crossover or this plastic jobby one right up front. They leak. Could be the little rubber hose under the supercharger, sometimes the tanks. I think because the coolant is pooling like right here, it's a water pump. That's my guess. I don't know, let's dig in and find out. The first thing we need to do is get the skid plate off and drain the coolant out of the D5. That way it's not splashing everywhere in the engine. And we can also take this opportunity to put fresh coolant in it. Have to use my concrete toolbox. Wet, pretty wet. With the skid plate out of the way, you'll be able to see this coolant pipe right here. It comes off the bottom of the radiator. We're just gonna pop this clip out. Let me get my Benchmade clip tool remover, like so. And then you can drop the hose down and coolant will start to fly out. Next up, we're gonna get the air boxes out of the way, the upper plenum out of the way. Pretty easy stuff. Just some straight blade screws. Just watch out, there's a, I wanna say it's a number 10 right here. We're gonna pull that out of the way and disconnect a few clips. Any of the tricky stuff I'm gonna show you guys, but for the most part, just disconnect your mass airflow sensors and get this opened up. Here is one of those things you want to pay attention to. This little tube, well, I'll start at the start. This sits inside, that is your little plenum piece. You got to unscrew that, comes off of the main intake. There's a little plastic hose that squeeze clips to this. I'll show you in the engine bay. They're notorious for breaking if you caveman it. So wiggle it free, gently move it over like so, and then reach in there and squeeze the plastic, and you'll be able to pop this right off. This is that plastic hose I was telling you, and you just squeeze like so, it'll pop it free. Okay, with the vacuum lines out of the way and the coolant lines out of the way, you need to unbolt the fuel line. The fuel line is under pressure, so you want to depressurize that, because when you go to take the nuts off of each side, it'll spray fuel. You don't want to have that happen. And it is also time to disconnect the electrical connections. Some of them have those little clips you pull back. Take a look at them. They're not that tricky, but don't just yank at it or else you'll break the clip. We're gonna get the wiring harness out of the way and move on to the next step. With the wiring and fuel lines handled, it's time to move on to the cowl. There's these little plastic spin clips on here. You're gonna drop them, be careful. I almost dropped one telling you to be careful. Come on. There we go. This is what they look like. Spin them out, pull them up, and then the little plastic pieces will come out. We've got some popper clips here. We need to get those out of the way. Pull the wiper blade arms off, and then remove the cowl. You might be able to, if you're better than me, which is probably 99% of you guys, to sneak back there with it. I'm not gonna goof around. I'm just gonna follow the instructions and pull it all apart. Our goal with the cowl out of the way is to remove these two cross supports and get access to that plastic panel so that we can reach back there. Do not use impact guns on these. Take them out slowly by hand. And then when you go to put them back in, you have to run a tap through it. So gentle, easy, take them out slow. We don't want to overheat or gall the aluminum for the crossbars. And then we'll pop that plastic piece out of the way. In order to remove this shield, you got to take out the two Torx that go right there, the two 10 mil head bolts that are right there, and another 10 mil head bolt that'll drop the little plastic trim down, giving us access. It's like we open up a secret universe or room, and that's a good thing because there's a couple brackets back there we want to get out. I'll bring the camera in, we'll have a look, and keep going. We need to get this little upper cowl bracket out of the way and this wiring harness bracket. You can see they're just held on with T30 Torx, I believe. We're gonna loosen that up. Watch out for that airline. You should have already disconnected it back here. But if not, you're gonna have to deal with that. Let's get this stuff out of the way, and then I think we'll be able to see the crossover tube. If you guys are laying across the motor struggling like me, here is the metal bracket that's holding the vacuum line. It's using two Torx for the top and then two little Torx on the back side to hold the bracket in. You want to get those free so you can pick it up and get it out of the way. This is the one that the wiring harness is also bolted to. It's a real fever dream of a bracket, but you'll get through it. Then we can move on to the next step. I hope you're good at counting because we need to take out 22 T40 Torx in order to get the upper portion of the supercharger off. We're gonna get that out of the way. Obviously be careful with it, it's aluminum. Set that down so it doesn't get scuffed up. Then we can access the 6 bolts below that actually hold the supercharger to the top of the motor. And we can get that out of the way and see where this coolant leak is coming from. Sounds more daunting than it really is, just 22 bolts to go. With the upper supercharger out of the way, we need to get this belt loose. Just a simple tensioner down there. Put your pry bar on it, or your ratchet rather, and then free this belt so that we can get inside and take out the 6 supercharger bolts. Got a little excited. Before we can pull the supercharger out, we need to remove this upper plastic tube. It's Torx here, Torx there, and then a little crimper. We're gonna get that up out of the way to make room. I'm wondering if that's where the leak is, so I'm gonna be extra special careful not to damage it as I take it out. With all of the bolts out, you want to take your time, wiggle it, free up those connections to the plenum. I kind of tap it with a mallet here and there to get it to move, then gently start to do this until it eventually comes free. I wouldn't recommend getting a big pry bar in there. Everything across the top is plastic. If you break that, you're on a whole different project. So if you do use a pry bar, and I know some of you will, yeah, I'm talking to you, do it gently and free up the connections. And then once it's loose, well, I'm gonna have to climb in the engine bay, but we're just gonna pick it right out. Now that we've got it up and out of the way a little bit, there's a couple of things we need to disconnect. One, this little rubber hose goes from the front here on your throttle body all the way to the back. I just get in there, pop it off, regular little hose, no big deal. And then there is an electrical connection in the back. As you're moving this up out of the way, I know it's heavy, just be careful. You want to get that connection off too. With that big aluminum lump of supercharged goodness out of the way, we can work on getting this crossover tube for the back. These are notorious for splitting. Looking at the coolant in there, if you're playing along trying to find out where it's leaking, still not quite sure, but it's not leaking from the back. It's very dry back there. It's kind of looking like that front tube is bad, or the water pump. We'll address that next, but with everything exposed, I'm going to put in this crossover tube held in with 3 Torx. We got more than enough room. Oh, super, pay attention guys, pay attention. The runners, the air intake, fill that up, not fill it up, but cover it up with some paper towels. We don't want any debris going in there. You can vacuum it now, that's what I do, and then I vacuum it again before we put it all back together. So you're gonna wanna address that. Cover it up, you've been warned. Then we're gonna get the Torx out. I'll show you, but it's pretty simple. Just a quick tip, put some coolant on the rubber O-rings before you bolt it all together. In my opinion, that is the worst part about the job. It's hard to get the supercharger out, but it's so uncomfortable for me at my age and this physique to lay across the engine bay and get those in. Not hard, just tedious. Now we can move on to the front little crossover tube that's held down with some more Torx, believe it or not. We're gonna pull that up and then we can put in the new aluminum one. The little lower crossover tube here is held in with 1 Torx. I don't know if you guys can see it, 2 Torx. We're gonna pull those out. Be careful, the lowers become brittle. We don't wanna have pieces fall into the engine. Okay, this is what the front crossover tube looks like. There's the O-rings here on the bottom. You wanna make sure they're not left in the engine, and you wanna make sure all your plastic is there. I've seen the plastic stay, but this one's actually in really good shape, so I don't think this is where our coolant was leaking from. Let's get the new one in and keep moving forward. Starting to look like the water pump's our culprit. Now that we have the plastic old one out of the way, lucky for us, there's a little bit of coolant right there. We're gonna put a little bit of coolant on the O-rings so they slide in nice and easy, don't get bound up or pulled off. We're gonna bolt this in place and then work our way forward to the water pump and the thermostat. The next thing I'm going to do is work on getting the thermostat out. It's held on to the water pump, which is what I think is causing our problem here, with some clamps and a little push pin hose. We're gonna get that free, unbolt the thermostat so we can kind of pull it forward, disconnect the hoses on the bottom, get that out of the way. We're gonna put the new aluminum one in anyways. That'll give us access to the front of the motor a little bit more, and then we can loosen up the belt, get out the water pump. Pretty much downhill from here. As you're pulling the thermostat out, there's 2 electrical connections on there. You want to make sure you get those safely removed so we don't damage any wires. Then we can move the stat up a little bit, get the lower hose and the bigger hose. When it's all out, I'll show you what it looks like. Here's what the thermostat housing looks like when it's out. I find it difficult to split these two, so often I just disconnect that lower hose, let it pop off, and then I can get it out of the way. Put this back on where it goes, swap these pipes over to the thermostat, then we'll be ready to install it after we check out that water pump. All right, I've loosened up the tension and removed the belt so we can see the water pump. I'll bring the camera in, show you guys where the tensioner is, because we're gonna have to take that off, and now is an excellent time to change your belt. I mean, you already disassembled it. Why not change it? And there's another little secret thing I'm gonna show you on the inside of the engine to look out for. Right there is the tensioner, just held on. I think that's a 15. We'll get the tensioner out of the way, and then there's a believe 4 Torx that hold the water pump in. When I get it out, I'll double check. Down there, as you can see, those are the hoses that we disconnected. And over here is a little secret thing we're gonna talk about. Let me get a flashlight for you. Right here, there is, okay, that's much better. There's the first tensioner that we loosened up to take the supercharger belt off. Should probably change that too. And the tensioner behind it on these motors is notorious for going bad. So I like to see if it's got any play. Hopefully it shows up on the camera if I can get my fat hand in there. There's a lot going on over here, guys. I got a flashlight to deal with. All right. No, it's not showing on the camera, but it is definitely loose. So I'm gonna change that while I'm in here too. Here's what the water pump looks when it is out. 4 Torx hold it in. This one's still in pretty good shape. But hey, 70,000 miles, I think it gave enough. There's also a little adapter piece that comes out of the back of the water pump that goes into another cooler. You want to be careful of that piece. In our kit, we've got another one for you to replace it with. So just be careful you don't break pieces off and drop them inside the motor. I'm going to show you that piece next. We're going to swap it out for the new one, clean the surfaces, and put the water pump back on. Here is our aluminum piece, and in the kit from us, you're going to get this rubber replacement washer. You definitely want to do that. Get a little bit of coolant on it so it slides on nice and easy. Let's move you out of the way. There we go. And then a little bit of coolant in here. So this will also slide in, and there's that lock mechanism. You put it in like so, and you twist it, and it locks in place. Then, since we're doing it, we get some coolant on that. We'll be able to put the water pump on. And this is what it looks like with the adapter piece in place. Okay, next up, we're gonna put the water pump in. Be careful. You wanna align the little bracket, that little adapter piece that we just put in. And then after that, connect the new aluminum thermostat, do all the wiring. Basically, you're doing the job in reverse. Didn't get too far before I had to come back and tell you guys something. In our kit is a little brass fitting. You want to swap out the plastic one that's notorious for cracking for the brass one when you go to put in the thermostat, which is what I'm going to do now. This is what it looks like when everything's back together. On to the supercharger. In the kit, you're gonna get 2 of these gaskets. They sit right there on top of the intake. Before you put the gaskets on, make sure your surfaces are clean. And I'm gonna hit it again with the vacuum. I wanna make sure any debris that could have got in there, even though we've covered them up, is gone, and we don't have any issues. We don't want no dirt in our motor, especially after all this work. Once those are in place, we'll lay them on there. We'll bring the supercharger in. I'm not gonna be able to film this because it's gotta balance it there. Clip the electronics into the back, hook up this rubber hose to the front, then we can position everything so we can bolt it down. I do have some torque specs for you though. All right, once you have the supercharger in place, the gaskets aligned, all the bolts started, go ahead and tighten everything down to 25 Newton meters. I'm getting excited. This is starting to look like a motor again. Next up, I'm gonna clean the surfaces a little bit, put the new gasket on. I'll show you that in a second, and then we'll tighten the top down. Here is the new Supercharger gasket in place. We're gonna go ahead and torque the top on, and it is very specific the way that you have to torque it. I'm gonna show you guys on the screen what bolts go where and when, and then you torque them down to, again, 25 Newton meters. Before you go ahead and torque all those down, remember this rear bracket of doom that utilizes 2 of the torque bolts. So we want to get that in place. Then go ahead, follow the procedure and torque everything down 25 Newton meters. With the Supercharger all together, I'm going to move to the back, put together the little wiring harness, the clips, the extra little metal bracket. Let's get that all done. Then we can button up the cowl, the wiper blades, get that whole side of the motor finished up as we move forward to finish off the cooling and basically put the car back together. Things are really looking up. I'm feeling good. With the back all done, check your electrical connections. You've got 2 on the left-hand side, and you've got a vacuum hose that has to go way in the back. Make sure that's on, make sure your metal bracket's all bolted together. You don't want that thing bouncing around causing trouble. That pretty much finishes up there. I've put all the fuel back together on this side. Haven't done the fuel lines yet because we need to drop in the front upper crossover tube. I am trying to button up the back like we talked about, and I'm on to the crossbars. Critical, critical, critical. Hand tighten these in, run a tap. It's all full of gunk. They're notorious for cross-threading. Then you're gonna be proper fraggled. So tap it, put them on, then you can move on to the cowl and all the fun stuff, cleaning that up. Moving right along, next up, we're gonna put in the aluminum crossover pipe for the front. Slides in like so and connects to the front radiator hose. As always, we wanna get a little lubrication on the O-ring so it doesn't roll or get ripped. We'll button that up. Then we can put the fuel rail across the top, start really putting all the hoses and everything back together. Now that the aluminum crossover pipe for the front is done, I'm gonna move on, putting all of the hoses back together, double checking all my electrical connections. If you took your fan off, make sure that's back on. Basically, this is the time to look over the engine, make sure there's nothing unplugged, there's no hoses that are not clamped down tight, and we are almost done with this job. All right, guys, your engine should be back together. Again, give it another look. You took apart a bunch of stuff. I forgot to even mention something in the video. I'm gonna bring the camera in. On this upper crossover tube is a little piece of plastic. It's a stopper. Again, they use these motors for so many different variations. On this particular one, it's not used. On others, you're connecting a hose to it. So you wanna make sure you put that little plastic stopper in. After that, I'm gonna vacuum the system down and fill it with coolant. There's the little plastic stopper. You just reuse and repurpose. All right, guys, while this is doing its vacuum fill, I pulled this off to show you. I see this forgotten so many times. That little plastic hose, I don't know if it's gonna come up on camera. You wanna make sure, remember when we took it off, we wiggled it to the side? We wanna make sure we wiggle it to the side and clip it back in. If you don't, you are just bringing road debris and dirty air into your motor. That's a no-no. Oh, almost done. We'll be able to fire this up in a second. I'm gonna put this back together. We'll have one last look and give it a start. All right, my rover friends, only a few more things to do. You wanna idle the car, bring it up to temperature, make sure the coolant is circulating, make sure you don't have any leaks, and be sure to follow for more rover content.